So we have the latest news of Nintendo going after Pocket Pair over Palworld. We don't have much information on the lawsuit other than the fact it exists. It's not going to stop the glut of YouTube speculation porn from pouring in, and it won't stop the Nintendo hater mob from having a field day on how evil Nintendo is as a company. All while Sony is selling you a marginally improved system devoid of basic features like a disk drive for a ridiculous price. And Microsoft is turning the gaming industry into a live service cash grab cesspool. Forget the fact Nintendo is still offering great games on a gaming console without any microtransactions and not turning every game into a live service. Many are commenting on why it took Nintendo so long to file this lawsuit when the game was released way back in January of this year. Again, we have very little information. Some have brung up how Nintendo doesn't lose in these situations. This is only half true. Yeah, the outcome of Nintendo going after certain people almost always goes the way of Nintendo. Nevertheless, Nintendo is not winning any of these in a court of law. All their recent victories have been situations where they muscled a smaller entity into a settlement. It's a win in the sense of Nintendo getting the result they intended, but it's not a precedent-setting legal judgment in Nintendo's favor. Nintendo wins more so because they know how to pick their targets, rather than having something which will stand before a judge. Many have brought up the fact this is a patent lawsuit and not about copyright. People have been bringing up patents Nintendo holds dealing with throwing a ball at an enemy to capture it. These patents were submitted back in 2021. Just to add something here, Nintendo's recent patents are amendments or divisionals to a previous patent they had in 2021. So these aren't new things that they just made up to attack Palworld. These are amendments to something they've had 3 years prior to the release of this game. This is something Nintendo can actually win in court. Nintendo doesn't need to prove the entire game is a patent infringing ripoff. If they can substantiate a certain integral mechanic in the game infringes, it'll bring Pocket Pair to its knees in halting further development and distribution of the game to remove the aspect of the game. Some have brought up the Nemesis system of a game called Middle-earth: Shadow of War, a critically acclaimed mechanic which was patented by Warner Brothers. Because of this patent, you haven't seen this system in any other game like it. No one tried to implement this system because they would have to pay royalties to Warner Brothers. This is an example of why Nintendo can absolutely win if it went to court, and that you can patent mechanics in a game. Whether or not you think it's right, it can be done. Nintendo will obviously get a lot of flack for this from the YouTube streets, and some will feel they're damaging their reputation even more than it already is. I've said it before and I'll say it again. YouTube is not a metric. Nintendo's been getting its wig split open by YouTube content creators since the Switch launched, and despite the hate mongering, the Switch is arguably the most successful game console ever made. The people saying they'll never buy anything from Nintendo don't own a Switch. There are people who will tell you they will never buy an Apple product and have been saying it for years, and Apple still outsells the competition by degrees of magnitude. My honest first impression when hearing about this was, how would Nintendo have a case to take Pocket Pair to court? Sure, if Pokemon and Fortnite had a baby, it would be Palworld, but Nintendo can't sue over a game being heavily derivative of another. The Tubosphere will do what it does, and it doesn't really matter. Nintendo has its share of fanboys, but the majority of people who invest in the Nintendo platform are sensible people who understand a company's right and duty to protect their IPs. This is what the situation with Yuzu was. The people who preach about it being okay to pirate Nintendo games aren't listening to reason anyway, so Nintendo isn't going to worry about appeasing these people because they're not the paying customer. If you poke the bear and it gets up and bites your arm off, it's certainly unfortunate you lost your arm, but you lost your arm being an idiot. You knew what you were doing. You wanted the smoke, and you got it. People who do things which are clearly illegal, such as hosting games which Nintendo has commercially available on their ROM sites, is going to get the ninjas after you. The people who got it had it coming. But again, the people who know this understand it already, and the people who don't don't want to, and don't care. When speaking on this subject, you're either preaching to the choir or talking to a brick wall. It's perfectly fine if you're not satisfied with how Nintendo does business. Your option is to take your business elsewhere. It's not an option to rob the place. Piracy is theft. Piracy is not the possession of an item being taken, it's the value of an item being taken. I can't sell my product if someone is making that same product widely available for free. Money talks, whether it's ROM sites, fan games, or Smash tournaments. When the cheese starts flowing, it gets the ninjas going. ROM sites like Vim's Lair and emulators like Ryujinx are still up. People still make fan games and Smash tournaments continue to go on. It's about the money. Remove the money and Nintendo doesn't care. Any intellectually honest person without an axe to grind is going to withhold any judgment until more information comes out. We don't know what patents Nintendo is using against Pocket Pair. The patents some of these content creators are bringing up are from 2021, 3 years before Palworld was ever released. As far as such a lawsuit stifling innovation, I have mixed feelings about that. Innovation does not necessitate someone making something totally new and unprecedented. It also involves looking at current ideas and improving upon those ideas. It's how things evolve and get better. On the other hand, the majority of games are legitimately rip-offs. There are tens and thousands of games made every year, and the majority of them fail. Many of these games are asset flips of more popular games. They're not trying to innovate or push the creative envelope. They're just looking to cash in on a trend. This happens a lot in the indie space, which has its share of gems, but is absolutely plagued with shovelware. Mobile gaming apps in particular are mostly predatory live service cash grab slop. Palworld doesn't break any new ground, same for Astrobot, but you don't have to make something brand new to make something fun to play. This lawsuit could possibly be something which will set a bad precedent for game development and stifling the ability to improve on ideas. It can also be that the patents are legitimate and Pocket Pair broke these patents and have to compensate Nintendo. People may remember the lawsuit Nintendo had filed against them for the design of the Switch. Game Vice sought to stop Nintendo from producing the Switch for the WikiPad. They actually made 3 attempts at this, and they all failed. We also have Sony and Take-Two being sued over Stellar Blade by a film production company under the same name. What we know to be the WWE was once the WWF, before an environmental firm sued them over the acronym. There are those rooting for Palworld to go down. To these people I say, knock it off. Don't be corporate lapdogs. I have no dog in this fight, honestly, as this is Nintendo's problem, not mine, and I've never played Palworld or any other Pokemon game. They didn't go after Foam Stars, Multiverses, or Crash Team Racing, but they will go after something which threatens one of their most valuable IPs and one of the most valuable gaming assets in the industry. And they very well may have a legitimate grounds to do so, just like a small environmental agency had the right to go after a huge wrestling conglomerate, and won. Nintendo always has been and continues to be the trendsetter. Whether you hate them or love them, you follow them. Imitation is the greatest form of flattery, but plagiarism is the greatest form of disrespect.